Microsoft Excel drop-down list, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. Let's start with the beginner, just the basics. If you want to have a drop-down list, select the cells that you want turned into drop boxes. Go to your Data tab, and in the Data Tools group, click Data Validation. Under the Settings tab, click Allow, select List. You can type your list in this box separated by commas, or you can point to the list. In this example, I have my list over here on the right hand side of the sheet. You can also have your list in a separate sheet. And I'm going to just select everything, and then note the cell references goes into the source box. We click OK. And now all of these cells have turned into drop down boxes. So instead of typing in the information, people can click the drop down and choose from the list. Now, what if somebody tries to enter something that is not on the list? They get an error message and they're not allowed to type anything else in. So moving on to intermediate, you can fix this so people can type something other than what's on the list. So I'm going to select all the cells again. Data validation. We'll still choose list under settings, and we'll still choose this list over here on the right hand side. But now over at error alert, see, right now the style is stop, which means that people can only enter from the list. Warning and information is a little bit different. Information is the least strong, warning is the next strong, and of course, like I said, stop, you can't enter information at all. So let's change the style to information, and we can send an error message. They'll still be able to type in the list, but they'll get an error message. The title can be please choose from list, and an error message we can say, so it can say if your entry is not on the list, enter your information and inform the sheet's administrator. So that way, who's ever entering the data can tell you about it, then you can add it to the list. So I'm going to click OK. So now if I try to enter something not on the list, I get an error message. If your entry is not on the list, enter your information and inform the sheet's administrator. Moving on to advanced, now we're going to make cascading drop downs or dependent drop downs. For instance, if I chose cats here, I want only types of cats to show up. If I chose birds here, I want only types of birds to show up. So I need to make a list over here first, well, over here or in a separate sheet. And I need to make sure everything matches. So types of pets, again, will be dogs, cats, birds. So then we'll have types of dogs. I need to make sure the header matches the subheader over here. And then types of cats, I'll have a header for cats. Next, I'm going to name these ranges. So I'm going to select the whole sheet, or not the whole sheet. I'm going to select all of this information. Left click and drag. Now go to formulas, create from selection, create names from the values in the just top row, and OK. So now all this information is named pets. All of this information is named dogs. Well, all of this information is named dogs. As you can see, when I select all the information on the left hand side here at the top, you can see that's the named range. This is the name box. So all this information here is named cats. If I select it, you can see the name over here. And same thing here, all this information is named birds. Next, we'll go back to our list. And again, we're at the Data tab, Data Validation, Settings, Allow List. And this time, we're going to type equal indirect, open parentheses, the name of the cell to the left of your dependent information. So in this case, it'll be G2, close parentheses. And now let's see if it works. Notice how I only get cat options now because this cell is dependent on this cell. Now I want to copy this formula all the way down. I'll hover my mouse over the field handle till it turns into crosshairs. Left click and drag. And now if I look at the formula, in this instance it should be G3 instead of G2. Let's take a look. Notice here now it says G3. And next one should be G4, G5, and so on. So once again, if it sees cats here, it'll look for cats over here. So remember, this has to be spelled exactly the same way, and it'll choose from cats. So now that this cell is dependent on birds, I can only see birds now. This cell is dependent on dogs, so when I click the drop down, I only get dogs. Now, could we break this down even further? Let's give it a try. So let's say there are different types of Persians. So I'll have a heading called Persian, and then let's say we have colors. So now I need to name this rain, and this time I'll just select it. And in the name, since I'm only working with one column here, I don't need to use what I used before. I'm just going to select it, and over here in the box, I'm going to type Persian. And then let's say my heading over here would be color. So now whenever I choose Persian, let's go ahead and change one here as a type of cat. Then for type of color, I want it to say white or smoky. So let's see if we can make this one dependent on this one. Again, we'll go to data, data validation, allow list, source, equal, indirect, open parentheses, and now we're dependent on H2. Close parentheses. Okay. And again, let's copy this all the way down. So now for Persian, I should get just white and smoky. And I shouldn't get any options for these others because I don't have cat selected and I don't have Persian selected. Like for instance, this one, I have cats, I have calico, but I didn't make a calico subcategory over here. So when I tap this, nothing shows up. But if I change this to Persian, then I should be able to choose between smoky and white. Moving on to another advanced feature is making your choose list a table. And the reason you might want to do this is, let's say for example, right now I've made a list called dogs, cats, birds. Maybe a week or two later after I've entered data, I want to have more pets in here. That means that I would have to go back over here and change my list properties, because right now the only properties it's going to find is dogs, cats, birds. If I type more information in here, it won't show up. And I'm going to select all of this information, and I'll go to insert, table, and make sure you select my table has headers and click OK. And now this information is in table form. Within the table, we'll type insects, and we can see the table expanded. Note around insects here, I have a light blue line and I have this dark little area here. So that is part of the table now. So now if I go up here to pets, select the drop down, then insects is an option. I didn't have to change my formula at all. Now if you're interested in even more advanced options for your drop down list, you might want to look at Microsoft Access. And I have a video on Microsoft Access called Microsoft Access Form Sign In Sheet a quick overview. And I'll give an even quicker overview here. I've already made the drop down list, and note an option you have for adding things to the list on the fly. Like here's my pets table, and here's the options we have already, so I can select from these options. But as well, if you look here, right underneath all of my 4 options, there's an edit list items, and I can just add it to the list. And now the extra thing that I added shows up on my list. Another option is to choose an online form. Some options are Microsoft Office Forms, Google Forms, or Wufoo and other online programs. Let's look at Google Forms. And by the way, I do have something that gives an overview of Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, and Wufoo. It's called Electronic Sign-In Sheets. Let's go to forms.google.com. And just a quick overview. Let's say that we have a question that gives you a multiple choice, and let's say that this one is option 1, and let's say we have 3 or 4 options, and one of the options could be add other. So this is how the person would see the form. They could choose either a predefined option, or they would select other, and then they would type in their option. And then you as the owner of the form can go in and see responses. And you can see the responses individually, or you can go to your spreadsheet And here's where you can see they typed in the other information. And in this example, I'm using Google, but you can do the same thing. And then if you want this to be in Excel, you can go to File, Download Microsoft Excel.